It doesn't matter who you are or what strength level you're at. By the end of this video, you'll perfectly understand how to learn the handstand. The handstand is the first real beginner skill that people unlock, and it's a great gateway for many more intermediate and advanced skills like the handstand push-up, one-arm handstand, and flag. Learning the handstand is like learning to walk again, but this time on your hands. All you need is consistency and the right guide to help you along the way. So even if you're a complete beginner, let's get started. Before I even get started with the tutorial, I can't stress enough how important it is that you're not scared of the skill or you don't have any doubts. I've seen people take 5 days to unlock the skill, and some people have been training for it for 2 years and still can't get a consistent hold. The only difference is one person pedestalizes the skill they think it's going to be impossible for them to unlock, and the other person just does the movement, does what they're supposed to do. In addition to that, it's important that you train with intent. If you're just randomly kicking off the wall, you're never going to get the handstand. You need to slowly take your feet off with the goal to actually balance. So the first thing we're going to do is the warm-up. The two most common injuries are a wrist injury and a shoulder injury. Starting off with the wrist, the first exercise I like to do are wrist circles. You can do them counterclockwise, clockwise, single hand, whatever. You kind of have to self-regulate, and once you feel the joint is loosened up, you can go on to the next movement. The next exercise I like to do is wrist leans. So lean onto your wrist, and then when you feel the stretch, lean backwards. It's very important that you don't hold the deep stretch position, because when you stretch statically, you actually increase the odds of injury. So make sure you're always stretching dynamically. Once you've done a couple of these, the next exercise I like to do are some wrist circles on the floor. So shortly entering that stretched position and going in that circle. You can go the other way too. And you can also do this on the other side of your hand, like this. And you can also do it facing forwards. Make sure you're just pulsing through it, not stretching statically. And the last exercise for the wrists, just for the fingers actually, are some finger pulses. So you just go like this, should feel a stretch. You might hear some cracks, that's okay. Okay, and for the shoulders, the injury risk isn't as high, but I still do recommend doing a few exercises. The first exercise I recommend doing is shoulder circles. What I like to do is I go 5 backwards, and 5 backwards fast, and 5 forwards fast. You might hear that little click, and that's completely fine. And I do small circles backwards, and then 5 faster, and forwards with fast speed. And again, you do have to self-regulate this. If you already feel loosened up after like 3 circles, that's okay. And if you've done 20 and you don't feel loosened up, feel free to do more. And I also like to do some shoulder dislocates. So grab a light band, grab it on the very edges, especially if you're not very mobile. And you just go like this. And again, you have to self-regulate this. Also keep in mind when you're doing these, don't move your spine too much, because that's basically cheating the rep. You want to stay as still as possible and just move your arms. Okay, now we're going to go into what actually is the handstand, because most people have a conceptually incorrect understanding of the movement. Because most people think, as in the name, it's just a standing movement, right? When you stand on your feet, all you do is just support yourself, right? So they think it's the same thing on your hands. But when you're a baby, you probably don't remember this, but you always have to make these corrections, right? If you lean forward, even you'll notice that you have to press into your toes, and when you lean backwards, you have to press into your heels. Sometimes you'll even make corrections bending at the hips or knees, right? Same thing with the handstand, except this time use your fingertips, the heel of your palm, your elbows, and your shoulders. Okay, so now we're going to go into a few mistakes that I see extremely often and will make you take twice as long to learn the handstand. The first mistake I see is people hyper-obsessing over form. If you're worried about your core engagement or your toes not being pointed, and you think that's the reason why you're falling, I hate to break it to you, but you're an idiot. The reason you're falling is because your balance is shit, and that's it. And that's okay, right? You're not used to balancing on your hands and being upside down. You have to practice frequently and get used to it. The only cues that you need to worry about is your grip width, not too far, not too close, your scapular elevation, and your focal point. The next mistake that I see is people rushing progressions. If you're doing freestanding attempts before you can even hold the handstand in the wall, you're going to get nowhere. You're trying to learn 2 skills at once, right? The kick up and balancing. Just focus on one and move on to the other when you're actually ready. Okay, and the final mistake is walking on your hands. A lot of people disagree with this, but let me explain to you why it's a bad habit. Walking on your hands does help you be upside down for longer, right? Build more time under tension, but build so many bad habits down the road. Especially when training for the skills like handstand push-up, you're gonna notice the negatives of it because you're constantly gonna be trying to walk on your hands instead of actually trying to balance the movement, right? A baby is trying to learn how to walk, not stand. You're trying to learn how to stand on your hands, not walk on them. So here's an example of what the cues you want to focus on should look like. First of all, the grip width, right? Not too far, not too close where your thumbs are almost touching. I like to do around shoulder width. The next thing is your focal point. For me, I like to look around in between my thumb and index finger, right here in the middle of my hand, but it will vary from person to person. And the last thing is scapular elevation. So I'll kick up into a handstand and show you what it looks like. So you see here I'm actively pressing out of my shoulders. If I sink, I'll probably fall, right? It's much harder to balance when I'm sinking. So I'm gonna press out. Okay, so now we're gonna go into the first exercise, back to wall toe pulls. So the first thing you wanna do is set yourself up around one hand length away from the wall. Around here is good, you can do a bit closer, a bit further, again, what you feel like. Same thing with the grip width, not too far, not too close. And you just wanna kick up onto the wall. And take one foot off, very slowly, and you'll feel the other foot come up, and you can bounce. And your feet will either come back or they'll come off. Either way, once you start to feel a burn in your shoulders, come off the wall and end the set. The handstand is supposed to be an easy skill and shouldn't create much fatigue. For the next exercise, face to wall toe pulls, you will need to learn how to bail. So let's do that first. Set yourself up against the wall, right? Doesn't matter how far away your hands are this time. And all you want to do is climb up the wall. Around one hand length is away. And all you want to do is with your dominant hand, put it in front of the other hand and rotate your hips. Like that. Okay, and for the actual face to wall exercise, climb up on the wall like you just did before for the bail. But this time, instead of bailing, you're going to take one foot off, just like you did for the back wall toe pull. And then if you overbalance, you have to bail. If you underbalance, you go back onto the wall. And you can either bail if you feel tired, or try kicking off again and do another set if you feel energized. But again, you don't want to create fatigue. Doing a handstand shouldn't be hard, and you want your body to be comfortable being upside down. Now for freestanding holds, you can start this one to get a 10 to 15 second hold with either progression with your feet off the wall. However, I recommend biasing chest to wall exercises just because it encourages good form while sitting back to wall. It's easier to do a banana back, which is basically where your hips are like this, your arch, your anterior pelvic tilt, and will lead to bad habits and having to fix that later on. But it's not much of a worry, that's completely fine. And for freestanding holds, it's not much different compared to the other exercises. All you need to do now is kick up and control the kick up, right? So same grip width, same focal point. All you need to do is just kick up, maybe you under kick. So now you need to know that you need to over kick for the next time. And then you over kicked, and so now you're gonna kick a little bit less. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Obviously, you're not going to get it that fast. It does take time and practice, but that's how you should view the kick-ups. Once you've mastered the handstand or are starting to get consistent holds, the next thing you can do is fix your banana back, aka the bad form. This is partly aesthetic, but will also help you in the long run with your balance. So what I like to think about in the handstand is pushing the ground forward and activating posterior pelvic tilt. That's the number one reason why you have a banana back. Because you have anterior pelvic tilt, right? That's what forms the banana shape. So it'll look like this in the handstand. And activate. Before this video ends, a few things to add. First of all, you can learn the skill. There will be days where you feel like you can't even hold the handstand. You're falling every other second and it feels impossible. But all you need is a willingness to improve, intent, and the right exercises. And now you have that all. As long as you keep going, I can guarantee you will get the handstand Just a quick recap of what we talked about. Make sure you're not rushing progressions. Work on the back to wall and face to wall exercises. Build appropriate volume in them. Get a 10 to 15 second hold, and then you can move to freestanding holds. Once you can get consistent freestanding holds, then you can fix the form. There's no special exercise that's going to 10x your progress. That is all you need, and that is all you should do. Make sure you're training frequently, around 5 to 7 times a week. What I like to do is 20 to 30 minutes of balance before my actual workout and 45 to 60 minutes of balance / handstand work on a rest day. And if you've been struggling to progress with calisthenics, you feel like you've tried everything and nothing seems to work, make sure to check out my page on Instagram. I drop tons of tutorials there. I engage with you guys, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I also have a free Discord community that you can join. Just send me a DM on Instagram and I'll send you that. And finally, if you're serious about calisthenics and you want to learn skills like the handstand, push-up, whatever, you just want to take it to the next level, feel free to DM me on Instagram, the word static, and we can talk about one-on-one coaching. Okay, that's all for today. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.